there is something you need to understand before you dismiss what brought you here today. The feeling that guided you toward this moment is not as simple as curiosity, and it is certainly not random. For a brief moment, allow yourself to become still. Let the noise around you fade into the distance and pay attention to what is happening inside of you, because the energy surrounding this moment carries a weight that feels different from ordinary experiences. This message is not merely passing through your awareness, it feels as though it has been moving toward you for much longer than you realize. Somewhere beneath the surface of daily life, beneath routines, distractions, and responsibilities, there has been a quiet current guiding you, drawing you closer to a realization that could only arrive when you were prepared to receive it. Chosen one, if you have felt as though something has been trying to reach you lately, you are not imagining it. For a long time, the universe has communicated through subtle impressions, fleeting instincts, unexpected feelings, and signs that were easy to overlook. Yet, under the growing influence of the Aquarius Moon on June 5th, those faint signals are becoming impossible to ignore. What once felt distant now feels immediate. What once seemed uncertain now carries a strange sense of certainty. This is not one more coincidence among many. It feels more like a call that has finally become loud enough for you to hear. And if there is a part of you responding right now, if something deep within your chest feels strangely recognized, as though these words were waiting for you specifically, then that response matters. Trust it. Something within you already recognizes this moment before your logical mind can explain it. But this conversation reaches further than spiritual awareness alone. It touches every corner of your life, including a subject many sensitive souls rarely discuss openly: abundance. There may have been periods when financial stability seemed forever out of reach, times when you invested effort into growth, healing, learning, and transformation, yet material rewards appeared delayed or absent. Perhaps you watched opportunities pass by and wondered why progress felt harder for you than for others. Perhaps you questioned whether something invisible was standing between you and the life you were trying to build. Yet what if the obstacle was never the universe withholding anything from you? What if hidden assumptions, deeply rooted beliefs, and unconscious energetic patterns were influencing your experience in ways you could not fully see? That understanding will reveal itself in time. For now, remain present, because what is unfolding beneath the surface reaches far beyond finances. There is a deeper activation taking place. Recently, something has been changing around you, and no explanation has fully satisfied what you are feeling. You may try to reason your way through it. You may search for practical explanations. Yet the sensation remains. It appears in the evolution of your thoughts. It appears in emotional surges that seem disconnected from immediate circumstances. It appears in the persistent feeling that unseen forces are rearranging pieces of your life while you watch from the inside. You may struggle to describe it, but your body recognizes it. Your intuition recognizes it. Even your relationship with time seems altered. Certain moments feel stretched beyond their normal boundaries, while others disappear before you can fully grasp them. Interactions with people feel unfamiliar. Conversations carry undertones you never noticed before. Interests that once consumed your attention suddenly feel empty or irrelevant. This is not evidence that something is wrong. It is evidence that something is changing. The Aquarius Moon rarely arrives as a gentle influence. Its nature is to expose what has been hidden. It interrupts old patterns. It challenges familiar assumptions. It removes layers of illusion that once felt permanent. For someone who is already highly sensitive to energetic shifts, this influence can feel like the activation of a dormant switch deep within consciousness. The emotional intensity you have experienced recently, the unexpected endings, the surprising shifts in relationships, the sudden changes in your environment, none of these events are occurring without purpose. They are signs that a larger alignment is taking shape. Space is being created. Certain structures are dissolving. Certain doors are closing. Not because you are being punished, but because something new requires room to enter. Even if you cannot see the destination yet, the process has already begun. Deep down, you have carried a truth about yourself for much of your life. You have always sensed that you viewed the world differently. Long before you had language for it, you felt it. As a child, there was often an awareness that separated your experience from those around you. You noticed details others ignored. You felt emotional currents that others seemed unaffected by. You questioned assumptions that most people accepted without examination. While society encouraged conformity and attempted to fit you into predetermined roles, another part of you quietly resisted. Not through rebellion, but through an inner knowing that something about those expectations never matched who you truly were. At times, that difference may have felt painful. It may have created loneliness. It may have left you feeling misunderstood, disconnected, or uncertain about your place in the world. There were moments when you may have wondered whether the problem was you, but under this Aquarius Moon, a different understanding begins to emerge. The qualities you once questioned are not mistakes. They are indicators. Your intuition, your emotional depth, your heightened awareness, your sensitivity to what lies beneath appearances. These characteristics were never weaknesses. They were signals pointing toward a larger purpose unfolding through your life. And now many of the questions you have carried about yourself are beginning to reorganize into clarity. What once appeared confusing starts to make sense. What once felt fragmented begins to connect. The experiences that have challenged you recently have been part of that process. Although they may have felt chaotic, exhausting, and overwhelming, they were not meaningless. A profound test has been taking place beneath the visible surface of your life. Unlike ordinary challenges, this one unfolded internally. It appeared through moments of self-doubt, through emotional heaviness that seemed to arrive without explanation, through circumstances that forced you to examine your strength, your direction, and even your sense of identity. There were times when it felt as though control was slipping away despite your efforts to hold everything together. Yet what remained hidden was that every moment carried significance. Throughout this process you were being witnessed, not through criticism, not through judgment, but through a deeper awareness that recognized exactly who you were becoming. And as this realization continues to unfold, you're about to understand why every challenge had to occur exactly as it did. What if the most important part of your journey was never the destination itself, but the way you continued walking when there was no evidence that the road ahead even existed? Think about that for a moment. There were seasons when answers refused to come. There were nights when certainty seemed impossibly far away. Yet somehow you kept moving. You continued taking steps through spaces where logic could not guide you. You continued trusting a feeling you could not fully explain. And that is precisely what mattered. The universe was never measuring how quickly you arrived. It was observing how you carried yourself through uncertainty. It was witnessing the choices you made when no reward was visible, when no confirmation appeared, when all you had was faith in something larger than yourself. Every time you chose persistence instead of surrender, every time you found the strength to continue despite exhaustion, every time you protected a spark of hope while surrounded by darkness, you were demonstrating something essential. You were showing that your spirit could remain connected to its purpose, even when your mind could not see the full picture. That unseen process has now reached a turning point. Whether you fully recognize it yet or not, the phase of proving yourself is ending. The reason these words are finding you now is because a new chapter cannot begin until the previous one has fulfilled its purpose, and that purpose has already been accomplished. Chosen one, there are certain moments that seem ordinary to most people. They pass through the calendar unnoticed. They appear no different from any other day, yet beneath the visible surface they carry an entirely different significance. June 5th belongs to that category. It is more than a date. It represents a threshold. It marks the activation of an energetic opening that reveals pathways which previously remained hidden from view. Under the influence of the Aquarius Moon, awareness becomes amplified, signals become stronger, insights become clearer. Possibilities that once existed only beyond your perception begin moving closer to the center of your reality. And when this energy reaches its highest expression, it rarely announces itself gently. It arrives through movement, through revelations, through developments that change direction without warning. Information may reach you unexpectedly. Circumstances may transform faster than anticipated. Opportunities may emerge from places you are not watching. Yet what appears sudden is actually the visible result of processes that have been developing for much longer than you realize. This is the meeting point where preparation and timing finally intersect. Every delay that frustrated you, every closed door that forced you to reconsider your direction, every period of waiting that tested your patience, every moment that seemed to hold you back when you desperately wanted progress, all of it was serving a purpose. Each experience was positioning you for this exact point in time. So when change begins to unfold, do not mistake it for randomness. Do not assume it appeared from nowhere. It has been forming quietly beneath the surface, beyond the reach of your immediate awareness. This moment has always existed within the architecture of your path. And now you are approaching something that carries a very different energy from the challenges you have grown accustomed to navigating. This is not the energy of loss. It is not the energy of confusion. It is not another lesson disguised as disappointment. Instead, it carries the frequency of arrival. Something is moving toward your reality that has the power to alter your perspective and loosen the grip of patterns that have kept you standing in the same place. The reason you could not predict it is because it was never designed to be controlled by your conscious expectations. Had you seen every detail beforehand, doubt might have interfered. Fear might have attempted to negotiate with it. The mind might have tried to manage what was always meant to unfold naturally. But certain forms of alignment arrive through timing that exists beyond ordinary planning. They enter your life through openings that bypass resistance and connect directly with readiness. When this energy arrives, it may feel almost unreal. There may be a brief sensation that reality itself has paused, not because something impossible is happening, but because something deeply aligned is finally stepping into view. In that moment, you will recognize it before you fully understand it. There will be a quiet knowing, a sense of familiarity, an inner realization that says, this is what everything has been leading toward. Suddenly, the waiting begins to make sense. The uncertainty begins to make sense. The obstacles begin to make sense. What once looked like detours reveal themselves as preparation. What once felt like setbacks reveal themselves as positioning. And you understand that nothing was ever truly working against you. It was working on you. Before transformation can reveal its gifts, it almost always begins by dismantling what can no longer continue. You have lived through that process already, perhaps more intensely than you expected. The pain you encountered was not superficial. It reached places within you that few people ever see. It forced difficult questions into your awareness. It challenged your understanding of your power. It challenged your confidence in your decisions. At times, it may have even challenged the value you placed upon yourself. Yet none of that occurred without purpose. The discomfort was part of a release, a shedding, a separation from identities, attachments, expectations, and familiar patterns that could no longer accompany you into the next stage of your growth. Letting go rarely feels graceful while it is happening. It often feels like confusion. It often feels like instability. It often feels like standing in a space where certainty has disappeared. But now, as the Aquarius Moon continues to amplify awareness, the hidden design within that chaos begins to reveal itself. You can start seeing connections that were previously invisible. You can begin understanding why specific experiences occurred when they did. You can recognize that nothing you carried was wasted. Every challenge served a purpose. Every emotional burden towards something valuable. Every difficult season contributed to the person standing here now. And that person is not the same version of you who first entered this process. You have changed. You have expanded. You have become capable of holding realities that once would have overwhelmed you. That is why the next opening is approaching. And it will not arrive through an obvious announcement. There will be no countdown, no advance warning, no carefully prepared explanation. It will likely appear disguised as an ordinary moment, a simple conversation, a message, an unexpected development, a new possibility emerging where nothing previously existed. Then suddenly something inside you will recognize the significance. You will feel it immediately. An internal shift, a sense that the door has appeared. The Aquarius Moon rarely works through predictable sequences. Its nature is disruption followed by alignment. It creates openings that bypass hesitation and move directly toward truth. And when that opening arrives, it will not wait forever. It will simply exist before you, inviting a response. The real question is not whether the opportunity will appear. The real question is whether you will recognize it when it does. Because moments like these respond to readiness. They emerge when preparation has reached completion, and somewhere deep within your spirit there is already an awareness that the distance between where you are and what you have been waiting for is much smaller than it seems. In fact, the first signals may already be appearing, not through dramatic events, not through overwhelming revelations, but through subtle details that are easy to overlook if you are not paying attention. And as these quiet signs continue revealing themselves, you may begin realizing that the shift you've been waiting for has already started. Have you noticed how certain things keep finding their way back into your awareness no matter how many times you try to dismiss them? A sequence of numbers appearing repeatedly, a thought arriving out of nowhere with unusual intensity, a feeling that seems to emerge without any logical source. Perhaps you convinced yourself it was nothing significant. Perhaps you explained it away as coincidence, overthinking, or imagination. Yet what if those moments carried far more meaning than you realized? Chosen one, communication from the universe rarely arrives in dramatic displays. More often it comes quietly, weaving itself through ordinary moments, waiting for someone attentive enough to recognize it. And whether you have consciously acknowledged it or not, messages have been reaching you for quite some time. Under the influence of the Aquarius Moon, those subtle impressions become amplified. What once appeared faint now becomes clearer. What once seemed isolated begins connecting into a larger pattern. The scattered pieces start arranging themselves into something meaningful. Suddenly, events that looked unrelated begin revealing a hidden relationship. Experiences that felt random begin carrying purpose. The reason you could not fully understand these signs before is not because you failed to notice them. It is because you were still becoming the version of yourself capable of interpreting them correctly. The preparation came first. The understanding arrives now. As this energy continues to build, another transformation begins unfolding around you, and initially it may feel uncomfortable. The people within your environment may seem different, yet in truth they are not changing as much as they are revealing what was already there beneath the surface. Individuals who once felt familiar may begin feeling strangely disconnected from your energy. Behaviors that you previously accepted without question may suddenly appear out of alignment with who you are becoming. You may watch certain relationships drift away without a clear explanation. At the same time, other people may unexpectedly move closer, creating connections that feel natural, effortless, and deeply aligned. None of this is accidental. The Aquarius Moon has a way of illuminating authenticity. It exposes what is genuine and weakens what is built upon illusion. For someone with heightened sensitivity, this process can feel especially intense. There may be moments when these shifts resemble loss. There may be moments when confusion attempts to convince you that something is wrong. Yet look deeper. What is moving away was never designed to accompany you forever. And what is entering your life now is being drawn toward you because it resonates with the person you are becoming. This is not abandonment, it is adjustment. It is reality reorganizing itself around a new level of alignment. At the same time, something equally significant is taking place within you. The most important transformation is not happening outside of you. It is happening inside. There has always been an intuitive voice within your consciousness, a quiet guidance system that occasionally surfaced through instincts, feelings, and unexplainable knowing. Now that voice is becoming stronger. Thoughts may arrive with unusual precision. Decisions may feel less dependent upon endless analysis and more connected to an immediate sense of certainty. You may begin sensing outcomes before visible evidence appears. Experiences may unfold exactly as you felt they would. This is not fantasy. This is awareness expanding. The Aquarius Moon stimulates higher perception, allowing consciousness to access layers of understanding that normally remain hidden beneath the noise of everyday life. You may discover yourself feeling drawn toward specific actions without fully understanding why. You may know something before facts confirm it. You may recognize truth before explanations arrive. Trust this process. Your higher self is speaking more clearly than it has in a long time. Its language does not always follow logic. Its guidance does not always arrive through rational analysis. Yet it carries a certainty that feels unmistakable when you allow yourself to listen. Every time you honor that inner knowing, it grows stronger. Every time you follow it, your connection deepens. What is happening now is a recalibration of your internal compass. You're being aligned with a path that existed long before you became aware of it. For a long period of your life, there may have been an underlying feeling that you were searching for something without knowing exactly what it was. You moved forward, yet uncertainty remained. Questions lingered in the background of your mind. Was this truly the right direction? Had you missed an opportunity somewhere along the way? Were others advancing while you remained stuck in place? Those thoughts may have visited you more often than you would like to admit. But what if the entire premise was incorrect? What if you were never behind? What if every experience, including the ones that looked like mistakes, was quietly guiding you toward a destination that required a very specific sequence of events? This realization begins softly. Then suddenly it becomes impossible to ignore. Connections emerge where confusion once existed. You begin recognizing that delays carry purpose. Periods of stillness carry purpose. Moments that felt stagnant were not empty at all. They were preparing foundations that could not be rushed. A profound understanding starts rising within you. You were never wandering without direction. Guidance was present even when visibility was limited. Support was present even when certainty was absent. And as this awareness settles into your spirit, a deep sense of trust begins replacing old doubts. There is also an energy connected to your past that may be moving back into your awareness. It could involve a person. It could involve a dream. It could involve an opportunity that once felt significant before disappearing from your life. Whatever form it takes, there is potential for it to reappear under the influence of this Aquarius moon. Yet, it is important to understand that if it returns, it cannot return unchanged. Neither can you. The version of yourself who originally encountered that experience no longer exists in the same way. You have evolved. You have learned. You have expanded beyond previous limitations. Therefore, anything that re-enters your life must do so in a form that reflects your growth. This is not a cycle repeating itself. It is a cycle completing itself. There is a difference. What once generated uncertainty may now bring understanding. What once created emotional turbulence may now create stability. What once felt unresolved may finally reveal its purpose. This is not about revisiting the past. It is about witnessing how growth transforms what was once incomplete into something capable of supporting your present reality. Meanwhile, you may still feel pressure building beneath the surface, a sensation that something significant is approaching, yet has not fully revealed itself. This stage can be frustrating because awareness tells you that change is near, while tangible evidence remains limited. But do not mistake this feeling for delay. What you are experiencing is accumulation. Energy is gathering. Circumstances are aligning. Pieces are moving into position. The process has not stopped. It is preparing. And when the release finally occurs, it often arrives with remarkable speed. The Aquarius moon is not known for gradual transitions. Its energy favors breakthroughs. It favors sudden realizations. It favors moments that change direction so quickly that the previous version of reality feels distant almost immediately. If pressure is increasing within you right now, honor that feeling. It is not an illusion. It is a signal. You are standing closer to transformation than you realize. Once movement begins, the landscape of your life may shift faster than expected, and after certain truths are revealed, returning to previous levels of awareness becomes impossible. There comes a defining point in every awakened soul's journey when inner truth becomes stronger than fear. Perhaps you have spent months or even years questioning yourself, second-guessing your instincts, hesitating before important decisions because a part of you still felt attached to what was familiar and predictable, yet now another force is rising within you. The mental noise begins fading into the background, not because fear completely disappears, but because something more powerful gains your attention. Under the Aquarius moon, truth has a unique quality. It does not bargain. It does not seek approval. It simply reveals itself. And when that revelation arrives, it carries such undeniable clarity that doubt struggles to maintain its grip. You may experience it as a sudden certainty, a decision that forms in an instant, a realization that appears without warning, a path that suddenly becomes visible where only uncertainty existed before. And as that clarity continues expanding, you begin understanding that the voice guiding you forward has been there all along, patiently waiting for the moment when you are finally ready to trust it. What if the signs you've been experiencing are no longer asking for your attention, but demanding it? What if the strange certainty rising inside you is not a product of imagination, but evidence that something larger is finally breaking through the noise? Chosen one. There comes a stage in every awakening when the messages become too consistent, too precise, and too deeply felt to dismiss any longer. At first, they arrive as impressions, a feeling, a pull, an instinct that refuses to disappear. But eventually, those signals gather strength until they become impossible to overlook. This is not coincidence unfolding around you. This is communication reaching a level where avoidance is no longer possible. The universe is speaking, and the reason it feels different now is because you have reached a point where you can finally understand what is being said. When that realization settles into your awareness, another truth follows closely behind it. The fear that accompanied so much of your journey was never designed to become your prison. It was never intended to define your future. Its purpose was far more specific. It existed to reveal whether you would continue listening to your deeper knowing even when uncertainty tried to drown it out. Every moment you chose faith over doubt, every moment you trusted an inner feeling despite lacking external confirmation, you strengthened a part of yourself that is becoming increasingly powerful now. And that power is beginning to reshape you from the inside out. The changes taking place are no longer limited to circumstances, relationships, or opportunities. Something more profound is occurring. Your identity itself is evolving. The way you view your place in the world is shifting. The way you carry your energy into a room is shifting. The way you respond to challenges, setbacks, and uncertainty is shifting. You may notice moments when your reactions surprise you. Situations that once would have triggered anxiety now create calm observation. Circumstances that once demanded approval from others suddenly feel insignificant. It can be unsettling because growth rarely feels familiar while it is happening. In fact, there may be moments when you feel as though you are meeting a version of yourself you have never encountered before. Yet this feeling is not evidence that you are losing yourself. It is evidence that you are discovering yourself. The Aquarius Moon brings a unique kind of awareness. It creates a mirror powerful enough to show both who you have been and who you are becoming at the same time. As that mirror becomes clearer, certain identities begin falling away. Roles you once played, stories you once believed, limitations you once accepted as permanent, none of them disappear because they were mistakes. They disappear because they can no longer contain the fullness of who you are becoming. A stronger presence begins emerging from beneath those layers, a version of you that feels more authentic, more certain, more connected to truth. This is not a process of becoming someone new. It is a process of uncovering what was always there beneath conditioning, expectation, and fear. And as this unveiling continues, you begin carrying yourself differently without even realizing it. There is more confidence in your energy, more stability in your decisions, more trust in your instincts. Then comes the moment when the shift becomes visible. Perhaps it arrives through unexpected news. Perhaps it arrives through an opportunity that appears at exactly the right time. Perhaps it arrives through a development that changes the direction of your path. However it manifests, there will likely be a brief period when your mind struggles to accept it. Not because it is wrong, but because it does not match the reality you have grown accustomed to expecting. The human mind often measures possibility using past experience. It looks backward to determine what can happen next. Yet the Aquarius Moon does not operate according to old patterns. It introduces realities that exist beyond previous outcomes. It opens doors that your history could not predict. Because of this, what arrives may initially feel almost unreal. You may find yourself questioning it, analyzing it, searching for reasons why it should not be possible. But beneath that mental activity, another part of you will recognize the truth immediately. A deeper awareness will understand that this moment belongs exactly where it is, not within the old version of your reality, but within the new version that is gradually taking shape. And once you stop resisting it, once you allow yourself to receive what is arriving without immediately questioning whether it can last, something remarkable begins happening internally. The struggle softens, the tension loosens, a sense of peace begins replacing uncertainty. You start recognizing that the opportunity was never beyond reach. It was simply waiting for the right level of readiness. As this transformation becomes more visible, people around you will inevitably respond to it. Some will celebrate your growth, some will be surprised by it. Others may seem confused by changes they cannot fully understand. There may even be individuals who once doubted your direction, dismissed your intuition, or questioned the vision you carried within yourself. As circumstances begin shifting in your favor and clarity replaces confusion, those same people may find it difficult to understand what they are witnessing. Yet their reaction is not your burden to carry. Their perception was formed through an older version of you. They evaluated your future based upon who you appeared to be at the time, not upon who you were becoming beneath the surface. Now the distance between those two versions has become visible. Naturally, not everyone will immediately recognize the transformation, but that recognition is not required. Your task is not to convince anyone. Your task is not to seek validation from those who never fully understood your path. Your responsibility is to remain rooted in your own truth, to continue moving forward with confidence, to trust what you know, even when others require more time to see it. This journey was never intended to make sense to everyone around you. It was intended to reveal something important to you. There's also a particular energy that follows long seasons of waiting, and you are beginning to enter that space now. For what may feel like a very long time, you have been investing energy without immediate return, giving more than you received, continuing forward despite limited evidence that your efforts were producing results, holding faith during periods when confirmation seemed absent. That experience changes a person. It builds resilience, it builds patience, but it can also make receiving feel unfamiliar. And that is where the next lesson emerges. Because under the influence of the Aquarius Moon, the balance begins shifting. The flow begins changing direction. A new channel opens, one connected not to striving, but to receiving. Yet receiving requires its own form of courage. It requires the willingness to accept blessings without questioning whether they belong to you. It requires allowing support to enter your life without immediately searching for reasons to reject it. It requires trusting that what arrives can be welcomed without guilt, fear, or self-doubt. This is where your growth becomes essential, because what is moving toward you now did not appear by accident. It is connected to every challenge you survived, every lesson you learned, every difficult decision you made, every version of yourself you had the courage to outgrow. The energy returning to you now carries the imprint of that entire journey. And unlike the fragmented rewards of the past, this arrival carries a sense of completeness. It feels different because it reflects who you have become. It is not merely compensation for what you endured. It is confirmation that your transformation has reached a point where what you have been cultivating internally is finally ready to express itself within your reality. And as this energy continues gathering momentum, you may begin realizing that what once felt distant is already much closer than you ever imagined.